Chapter 3. A Chase. Alejandro. The smell of sex and sweat hung in the air. The sound of skin against skin and moans from the two women who lay on the bed filled the room. They kissed each other as I fucked one of them. I didn't really feel anything, even as my release rushed through me. I simply pulled out and got off the bed, taking a drag from the cigarette that was between my lips. Not even bothering to cast the two she-wolves I had just fucked a second glance. They won't be able to walk for a good day or two. They'd fulfilled their purpose, and now, I don't want to see them again. Women were all the same to me. I fucked them and I moved on. I was 34 and I didn't have a mate, but I'm glad. I am not mate material. I'm a fucking twisted freak of nature. I guess not being a werewolf meant I didn't get one. It's been over 10 years and I accepted that fact. It just meant I could have 100 women if I wanted, and I have had a lot more than that. I wouldn't need to deal with a so-called soulmate. I didn't have a fucking heart, nor did I care. There was no place in me for anyone else, and that is the way I liked it, to be alone. I've seen countless men fall to their knees to please their women. I wasn't one of them. Some called it a curse that I didn't have a mate. I called it a fucking perk. No bitch to fuck with my head. The only thing I needed fucking with was my dick, and I got plenty of that. I walked into the bathroom to wash their filth off me. I didn't bother turning the light on. What's the point when I can see in the dark? I frowned, stepping into the shower after tossing the cigarette into the bin. Turning the faucet on, I let the cold water pour over me. I didn't feel anything. Not the cold, not the pleasure. It was all the same. Years had passed, and with each one I felt more animal than human. The only thing that made me feel alive was pain and killing. I loved the chase, the play, and the kill. I made it my sole purpose to clear the world of fucking trash. I soaped my body and was rinsing off when I felt someone mind-linking me. Alpha, we've got a location. Darian, my second in command, my beta, was an alpha but had refused his position to be by my side. Probably the closest thing I had to a friend. Where? I licked back. Heading towards Birmingham if we leave soon. We might be able to get it. Be ready in 10. I cut the link and grabbed a towel, a humorless smirk on my face. That was near the dickhead Elijah's pack. The temptation to impose on him felt like some entertainment. The man was on my council, but we hated each other's guts. He was only 6 years older than me, but he was one of those cocky bastards I loved to piss off. I was meant to visit him tomorrow. I think I'd move that up. Darian. Yeah, Alpha? Let Alpha Elijah know. We're coming tonight instead of tomorrow. They can host us. I left the bathroom and walked over to the bed to grab my phone. One of the she-wolves stirred and sat up holding her sheets to her chest.
Alpha?
I ignored her, grabbed my phone, and left the room. I hadn't been to Elijah's pack location, although he came for pack meetings often, so it would actually be a fair visit to see how he runs his pack. I had to admit, he had the strongest pack around. Mine didn't count because I took members from different packs. It was more of a pack of warriors than a family. We had strong wolves who would deal with threats and were sent out. I was settled not too far from my brother's pack, but not too close for the packs to mix. I had territories all over, and I moved around if needed. It had been 8 years since I attained this position, by force in many cases. I forced the alphas to submit, and I claimed my position and exercised my authority upon them. I wasn't an ordinary werewolf, and I wasn't going to be treated like one. I entered my bedroom picking out some oversized shorts. They were baggy enough and wouldn't rip when I transformed. After all, I wasn't your ordinary werewolf. I was a Lycan. Stronger, better, smarter, and I expected everyone to know that. A Lycan was like royalty, and so I took my throne, in a way. But whether they admit it or not, every pack is safer with my reign over them. Innocent wolves don't get abused. If they do, they know I'm here. I was the alpha of the Nightwalker's pack, also known as the Royal Pack. With time, more and more disturbing happenings have occurred, but I've done my best to contain the threat. Not only were rogues working in packs, but beasts called Wendigos had appeared. Wendigos were werewolves who had eaten werewolves and became something different. They lived to kill and eat werewolves and had no trace of sanity left. And then there was the Manangals, vampire-like creatures with elongated limbs, long claws, teeth, and surrounded by a revolting smell. They preyed on children and pregnant women. The worst thing was these things were made with dark magic, and although I had been working on tracking these things for over 16 years, I was still grasping at straws. Just the thought made my blood boil. Whoever was behind it was smart, smarter than I anticipated, but I swear when I find them, I'm going to make them wish they were never born. The 4 men who were to join me were ready. I shifted. The seconds of pain as my bones snapped and reshaped felt refreshing. I cricked my neck side to side, and without a word we began running. I was faster than the other 3, but they knew where we were headed. I hadn't seen one of these creatures in a few months. Something that had unsettled me. Was something bigger to come? It was just my gut instinct, but I'm not usually wrong. But now that one had been traveling south, I had had it tracked, and like always, it won't get away from me. I wanted to try to get one alive, but I always ended up fucking tearing them apart. The moon shone, and, as always, I felt more powerful under it. My eyes blazed as I sped up, a black blur as I ran towards my prey. 2 hours had passed. I had crossed by Birmingham. I was most probably somewhere near the Blood Moon Pack. I'd picked up a scent. It was a Wendigo, which meant a lot of people were in danger, not just kids and pregnant women. I'd entered a town, and I frowned. Didn't they usually stick to the woods? I looked around, realizing I was in Stratford-upon-Avon. Something wasn't right. I shifted back, tightening the string on my baggy shorts. The night was cool. The wind was calm, so catching a scent wasn't too hard. But it still managed to evade me. That was odd. Did it have a target? Where was it? I stuck to the shadows. There were too many people around. Fuck, this wasn't good. I needed to do something so we weren't seen. I looked up at the electricity wires, my eyes flashing red. A cold smirk crossed my lips. Now this was going to be fun. If it wanted to play hide and seek, I'd give it what it wanted. I jumped up, ripping through the electricity wires with my claws. Sparks flew, illuminating the sky before the entire area went black. I heard a low whistling growl in the distance, and I smirked coldly. Game on, fucker.
Chapter 4. A Stranger in the Dark. Kiara. I shifted mid-run, feeling the thing behind me run faster. It wasn't a rogue, I knew that much. I couldn't see where I was going, but I kept running. My ankle screamed at me in protest, and I stumbled a few times. Although my mind screamed at me to turn and look at what was chasing me, a basic instinct, one of which was of no use to me, I wouldn't be able to see. I hit a wall and growled. Turning, I knew I had to fight, or I was done for. I lashed out, but I was knocked to the ground. I could hear it approaching as I got up once again. I felt it sniffing me, and I tensed. Did it not want to kill me? I was wrong. The next thing I felt was something bite into my neck, making me howl in pain. The wound stung, and I felt my body force itself to shift. My shoulder was aching painfully. A loud growl ripped through the air, and I felt something push my attacker off me. I couldn't see, but I could hear a fight going on. Biting, growling, and the sounds of bones breaking. The smell of blood filled the air, and then silence. I tried to sit up, but my neck and shoulder were burning up. Liam, I called through the link weakly. I couldn't say anything as I felt exhausted. I heard footsteps, and I crossed my arms over my chest, wishing I could see. An intoxicating, woody scent filled my nose, laced with male musk and smoke. I licked my lips. Something about it was extremely pleasant. "Who are you?" I asked, my voice calm and in control, despite the pain I was feeling.
Someone who fucking saved you, pup.
Came the most delicious voice I had ever heard. My heart skipped a beat at the rugged tone that seemed to make my skin hum. Kia! I hear Raven's voice in the sound of running. Before I could say anything, I felt the man leave, and I wished he hadn't.
Fuck, Kia!
Liam said, and I felt him pulling his shirt over me before scooping me into his arms. She's injured! Oh, God! Raven said, sounding panicked. I'm fine, I said, sounding weaker than I wanted. What the hell was that? Raven asked as I felt myself being placed in the car. Raven got in next to me, pulling me into her arms. Something chased me, and someone saved me, I said quietly. The thought of the deep voice making my stomach flip.
Well, whoever the fuck he was fast. He grabbed that thing and vanished,
Damon said. The car fell silent as we drove home. I knew Dad was going to flip, and I didn't want him knowing what happened. I stared out at the passing streetlights. It seemed only the cinema area had been affected. Get me to my bedroom, Liam. Do not tell Mom or Dad about this. Please, I said weakly.
We need you checked,
Liam said curtly. I'm warning you, Liam, just listen to me, I snapped. She's kinda right. Uncle Al will cut your balls off, Raven said. The two young men exchanged looks and nodded, sighing. We all knew that was true.
But you need to clean that wound,
Damon added. I'll do it for her and stay the night with her. If she gets a fever or anything, I'll let you guys know.
You can't even mind link,
Liam remarked. Raven leant forward, flicking the back of his neck. I can come to your room. You don't live across the Packlands, do you, dunce?
Okay, chill out, bite size.
I sighed, leaning back and closed my eyes, ignoring their banter. Tonight had ended unexpectedly, and once again, I had to be saved. I was finally in the comfort of my room, relieved that Mum and Dad were in their room. They definitely weren't asleep. We all knew that. The two were the most in-love couple I've ever seen, and their sex drives were something else. Thank God for soundproof walls. The walls to my room were textured, dusty pink paint with a sparkle of shimmer in it. The wooden floor was covered with a plush pink rug, and my bed and furniture were gray. Whilst my bedding was gray and white patterned print, there was a floor-length window that was covered in white and pink organza curtains. A book corner, containing rows of books, diaries, and my candle collection, was on the left of the door. On the floor in front of the shelves were several cushions, where I would usually sit to read or write. On the wall opposite to the bed were my wardrobes, and set in the middle was my vanity table with a mirror. I had 2 floor lamps and a glitter lamp. Around my headboard and curtains there were strings of fairy lights. This was my haven, a place I didn't need anyone's help, where I felt capable and where I wasn't constantly fussed over. I was currently sitting there in Liam's shirt as Raven dabbed antiseptic on my shoulder. We should have got Liam to lick it. You know, alpha saliva helps. Ew, gross. That's more intimate. He can lick you, but he isn't touching me, I retorted in disgust. Oh, come on. I'm sure he wouldn't have minded. I know he wouldn't, but no, thank you. I was relieved when she placed plasters on all the gaping marks where I was bitten, and let me relax back. It doesn't look like a wolf's bite, she said, now serious. I don't think it was. It didn't sound like one, I said, shuddering slightly. Who saved you? Any idea? I don't know, but he wasn't from this pack, I said quietly, remembering his smell and the way his voice sounded. Your heart's racing, Raven said, looking at me curiously. I looked at her. I didn't have any secrets from her. We both told each other everything. His voice was sexy. Like, really sexy, I said, dropping back onto my bed. Raven's eyes widened as she got onto the bed, on her knees, staring at me, wide-eyed. Whoa, really? Like, panty-dropping charming? She asked. I raised an eyebrow. More like panty-wetting charming? Is that even a term? She gasped and smacked my leg. Damn! I wish... She stopped, a flicker of guilt crossing her face. I knew what she was going to say. Don't... I wish I saw him too. If his voice and scent had anything to it, he would be pretty hot, I said, staring at my ceiling, the light from my glitter lamp casting sparkly patterns on it. What did he say? He said he's the one who saved me, I said, pouting, remembering his words. She lay next to me, placing her arm over my waist. Now thinking of it, he called me a pup. I turned to my side, unhappy with that. Raven laughed. Well, I'm sure if you gave him a little show rather than try covering yourself, he'd realize you weren't just a pup. Raven, go to sleep, I groaned. All right, she said from behind me, and I knew she'd be out like a light. I turned off the other lamps from the switch near my bed, staring at the silver glitter that swam in the pink water. Raven's breathing became rhythmic, and sure enough, she was fast asleep rather quickly. But I couldn't sleep. The same thoughts consuming my mind. Who was he? And why was he in our territory?